Roblox, basically a game engine at this point, is a platform bursting with creativity, and horror games are one of its most popular genres. But let's face it, while some Roblox horror games are genuinely creepy, many rely on tired jump scares and simplistic gameplay. And for me, it's really annoying to go and scroll on the Roblox homepage, see a game or a horror game that looks interesting, and it has like really cool screenshots and stuff, but then you go through it, and then it's just like a walking sim. Which is like cringe. But that's where Doors and Pressure come in. These two games stand out as some of the best horror experiences Roblox has to offer, delivering tension, creativity, and depth that actually outshine like pretty much everything, which is kind of a bold thing to say, but y'all just gotta like hear me out.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
One of the biggest things Doors and Pressure excel at is their fresh approach to gameplay. In Doors, the concept is pretty simple. Open doors, explore rooms, and survive, but the game keeps you on edge with its unpredictable mechanics, with my favorite definitely being Dupe, a fake door displaying the incorrect next room number, and if you open it you could grab them bitten for 40 damage by the monster behind it. This gameplay mechanic is so good because it actually forces you to keep track of what room you're in instead of just mindlessly going through them, and it's easy to avoid this thing at first because if you listen closely enough, you can hear Dupe moving around behind the door. But in later rooms past the halfway point, this rumbling behind the door cannot be heard anymore. So you actually have to keep track of what room number you're in. And don't even bother trying to go back and check the door you just went through because something scribbled it out. Pressure has this too, by the way, obviously. But it just goes to show how effective the gameplay mechanic is. Every door holds the potential for danger, forcing players to stay alert and adapt to unexpected threats. It's the kind of suspense that feels natural and not forced, a rare quality in Roblox horror where many games rely on scripted jump scares that you can see coming like a mile away. Pressure adds its own twist by creating an environment that feels alive, as opposed to Doors where everything feels very abandoned, which is a completely opposite atmosphere. And both scenarios are neither worse or better because they both play into their own strengths equally. With there being over 1,000 different rooms in Pressure, yes, count them, over 1,000, the shifting layouts make every playthrough unique. Doors tends to focus on the entities and monsters, but Pressure definitely leans into its environment in order to generate suspense. I mean, in Pressure you have underwater areas where everything is muffled, areas with rotten coral making like weird ass noises, and the Divine rooms where if you step on the Divine's grass, they detach from the ground and run at you. Pressure also has some amazing voice acting as well, which has inspired me to do stuff like this.
If you're staring, you better be buying. I found that one a few steps away from the infirmary. I'd be careful where you stick it.
I'm basically Gianni.
Machine, I will cut you.
But Doors does the whole environment thing too, but with the sheer amount of rooms in Pressure, it just doesn't compare. And arguably, Pressure does this whole procedurally generated room thing way better than Doors, even containing some rooms that are more rare that have like lore documents in them. In Doors and Pressure, you kind of have to think critically about managing your resources compared to the standard find the key, unlock the door, repeat formula, which don't get me wrong, they're definitely present in Doors and Pressure with you having to find a key or a key card. But this objective is so small in comparison to the main goal that you can kind of just brush it off to the side, as it typically only takes 30 seconds max to find it. These games offer experiences that are genuinely engaging and don't give you a single feeling of, ugh, I wish I could just skip this part.
That's no good.
Because everything is actually good. Now, I kind of already talked about it before, but Doors creates a haunting vibe with its dimly lit corridors and eerie, kind of Victorian style architecture. The sound design is just really good. The faint creaks, sudden whispers, and occasional roars aren't just like noise, they're actually tools designed to keep your nerves on edge. And one thing I actually do really want to touch on is the graphical fidelity of Doors. Now, I've said it before, Doors contains way less rooms than Pressure, but I feel that that was sacrificed to have the game look good. quality over quantity is a saying that I feel Doors leans towards, because I definitely believe that in terms of graphics, Doors holds that over Pressure. Now, I'm sure it's not actually real and more simulated, but this game more or less accurately mimics volumetric lighting and actually does have dynamic shadows that cast in the direction in accordance to the light source, which is not anything like crazy, but I genuinely just did not expect to see that in a Roblox game. It just kind of further proves that Roblox Studio is just like a game engine now. Now, what's funny is that Pressure does do this, but only with flashlights, but in Doors, it doesn't do it with flashlights. So I don't know what that's about, but you know. My point still stands. The textures and models are also really good as well. So good to the point where if you were able to hide certain elements that call out that it's a Roblox game, I would have genuinely believed you if you told me it was built in like Unity or something. Meanwhile, Pressure takes a more darker and industrial approach, with the game being set in a deep underwater laboratory. The game's environments feel suffocating, with flickering lights and ominous machinery adding to the tension. The game has so many rooms. Like so many rooms that you genuinely feel like you're stepping into a large anthill that expands for miles. I mean, I honestly can't even put into words how the environment feels, so I'll just play a quick little cinematic to demonstrate it. Oh, well, that's all the budget could afford, I guess. The devs understand that fear isn't just about what you see, it's about what you don't see, and the game keeps you questioning whether you're being hunted or if it's all in your head. This level of polish stands in stark contrast to many Roblox horror games where visuals often feel generic and sound effects feel like they were borrowed from a free asset library. And it's not like there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with borrowing assets from a free sound library, but it's just oftentimes it's used not well, so it kind of adds like this cheesiness to it. But do know that it is definitely still possible to create a game that uses free assets that are still good. Now, one thing for me that really gets me into a game is its story, and I know a lot of people could care less about it, but it's just like a major thing that a lot of people also have in common. Like, for instance, this is way off topic, but the reason why I made Wraith in Apex Legends was because of her backstory. So in Doors, the mystery of the endless hallways and supernatural entities is never fully explained, leaving the players to piece together the story through subtle clues. But with Doors, less is more, and it actually uses this as its strength, feeding the player base with little bits and pieces of the story, and then everyone kind of theory crafts, which is exactly how the entire FNAF franchise was.
Was that the bite of 80s?
And that kind of storytelling did really well for those games, and it's really engaging for the community. So this sense of mystery actually adds on to the replayability and keeps players coming back for more. You're not just surviving, you're trying to uncover the secrets of this strange haunted world, which still to this day, after the game being out for so long, I think 2 or 3 years now, we still barely know anything about, which again is not a bad thing. The way the community makes theories is really good for the game. Listen, I personally enjoy watching Shutterballs and listening to his hypotheses.
Is Rush related to Seek?
And then looking into his comments and seeing what everybody else is saying. Now, Pressure takes a more environmental and direct approach to storytelling, in which throughout the Halo Black site, you'll find documents, and collecting these documents provide thorough insights into the facility's history, urban shapes operations, and the anomalies being researched. Now, the reason why this is also an effective method of storytelling is because there are only certain rooms that contain these documents, so it keeps you playing, hoping that you'll get that room that has the document in it.
Yoink!
Or you could look it up on their wiki, but that's pretty lame, so that's like minus 100 aura, I guess. Both Doors and Pressure excel at this replayability factor, which is a key thing for the longevity of video games, just in general. Now, balancing difficulty is a crucial thing in horror games, and you guessed it, Doors and Pressure does do it pretty well. In Doors, the challenge ramps up gradually. Early on, you're just figuring out how things work, but by the time you've actually figured it out, you're already sprinting through rooms trying to escape a screaming PNG, which is, by the way, scarier than it sounds. You got a firm grasp of the mechanics, and each encounter is a test of skill and observation. It's not actually random chance. It might seem random chance at first, and it definitely did feel like that for me, but trust me, now that I've died almost 500 times in the game, I pretty much know everything. Every run is doable, and you kind of just can't die. When you die indoors, an entity called the Guiding Light will speak to you in this dimension, directly stating what you died to and how you can avoid it.
It seems you are having trouble with Rush. It can attack from either in front or behind. So make sure to listen closely for where it's coming from.
Pressure does the same thing, but a little different. Instead, you're brought to a desk with Sebastian.
What was it this time?
Where he gives you a document with similar details. See, he doesn't know I don't actually need this. I'm just doing this for the footage, so Sebastian, please go away. The fan communities for Doors and Pressure add an extra layer to their success. Players share their theories, create guides, and even produce fan art that deepens the experience. The developers actively engage with their communities, rolling out updates and responding to feedback, which keeps the games fresh and exciting. This level of developer support is really rare among literally games in general, and many others feel like one-off projects that get abandoned shortly after release, while Doors and Pressure continue to evolve and improve. Doors and Pressure are shining examples of what Roblox horror can achieve when developers prioritize creativity and polish and engage in mechanics over trying to get little children to gamble away their parents' life savings. And that is exactly why Doors and Pressure have really set the standard for Roblox horror, and both are what I feel like what developers should go for whenever they decide to make a horror game. Now obviously, it doesn't have to be in that exact gameplay format where it's procedurally generated rooms, but it just needs to have some sort of depth, and it has to have some sort of creativity, and it has to have some sort of storyline where it's kind of engaging and cool and mysterious, and not just the boring, oh, I'm gonna walk through this place, get jump scared about 5 times, and then leave. You know, like that's boring. Nobody wants to play that, like, honestly. And both games are good examples of how both teams of developers can bounce off of each other's ideas that isn't directly copying. Like, yes, some of the gameplay mechanics are similar, but it's not completely the same, if you're understanding what I'm saying. Like, they're both, if you want to call it that, copies of each other when it comes down to we're walking through randomly generated rooms in a randomly generated order, but when it comes to the theme and execution of the story, they are completely different games, which is why it's really annoying to hear people say that, oh, they copy this from Doors or they copy this from Pressure, because they are both bouncing off of each other in a healthy way in their own right, and it's not really fair for both teams to suffer this kind of criticism. So yeah, that's just all I had to say. That's gonna be enough of the talking non-stop montage for me. If you want to see more of this, I guess, then do subscribe. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe if you want to. You know, that's gonna be the end of this little rant, and I will catch y'all whenever I decide to upload again.